Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.
Good evening. It's Thursday, March 18th. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya C. What a difference a year makes. With more COVID restrictions on businesses lifted and more shots going into arms, things are starting to look up, but that doesn't mean the virus is not still taking a toll. Today, public health officials are reporting 439 new infections and 8 deaths. As KPBS reporter Matt Hoffman explains, while more San Diegans are now eligible for the vaccine, they're going to have a hard time finding an appointment.
There is going to be a shortage of first dose appointments in particular.
San Diego County Supervisor Nathan Fletcher says that's because vaccine allotments are not keeping up with demand, saying the county's most recent delivery was a 10% bump.
It's not the increase we would like to see. We would rather have a doubling of the number of vaccines. But I think it does begin to show that the supply is beginning to uptick.
So far, nearly 30% of San Diegans over the age of 16 have gotten at least one dose, while 17% are fully vaccinated. This weekend, the county's busiest vaccination site near Petco Park is closing permanently to make way for Padres baseball.
Even when we set it up at the outset, we knew by April 1st it would have to cease operations. And so this was a part of the planned operation. They're going to see through the rest of the second dose appointments.
This week, millions of Californians with underlying conditions became eligible for vaccinations, but there are still seniors who need shots.
Today, I just want to thank everyone who has helped their neighbor, their parent, their grandparent, their friend to schedule an appointment.
Officials are finding it challenging to reach homebound seniors in particular. Currently, mobile firefighter units and Sharp healthcare teams are working to vaccinate homebound seniors. Residents can call 211 to get on a list, but officials acknowledge progress there has been slow.
So we're trying to get it back on track and moving a little bit faster.
This week, restrictions for indoor operations at restaurants, gyms, and other businesses like movie theaters were relaxed for the first time in months.
We do want to encourage the public. We want to continue to be cautious. We want to be careful. We want to make sure we have a smooth and steady recovery.
Matt Hoffman, KPBS News.
And if you want to find out if you're eligible and where to get your shot, head to kpbs.org. Just go to our homepage and then click on the Vaccines tab to find qualifying medical conditions, clinical locations, as well as links to make an appointment. This Saturday marks the 100th day Todd Gloria took over as mayor of San Diego. Gloria is taking that as an opportunity to take account of all the things he said still need to be done, creating a budget that is balanced and equitable and addressing rising gun violence and homelessness. Mayor Gloria, who is part Filipino, addressed the issue of violence against Asian American people following the murder on Tuesday of 6 Asian women in Atlanta.
This is a time of great challenge in our AAPI community. We recognize while the acts of extreme hate may not have happened here yet, we don't want them to come here, and that this city stands squarely with our Asian Pacific Islander community in saying no to hate, no to violence, and that we will stand up against it every single chance we get.
Last night, San Diegans sent a message of solidarity to the Asian American Pacific Islander community. They gathered at Seaport Village, lighting candles and holding a moment of silence for the people who were killed. Authorities in Georgia still trying to determine the motive in the killing of 8 people, including 6 Asian women. But police say they aren't ruling out that it was a hate crime. As Camila Bernal explains, the deadly shootings are highlighting the fear, the hate and violence many Asian Americans are experiencing amid the pandemic.
Investigators say it's too early to know if the Atlanta shootings were racially motivated. But this comment from Captain Jay Baker is sparking outrage in the Asian community and beyond.
He understood the gravity of it, and he was pretty much fed up and kind of at the end of his rope, and yesterday was a really bad day for him, and this is what he did.
The comment has many digging into Baker's social media, where a photo allegedly posted by Baker last year shows shirts with racist and anti-Asian messages about COVID-19. When asked by CNN about the post, Baker had no comment. Since the start of the coronavirus pandemic, Asian American groups say they're experiencing a rise in incidents of hate and violence.
There is increased fear amongst our community, but there's also deep pain and anger.
Lawmakers in Washington even holding a previously scheduled committee hearing to address these fears.
I want to make clear that all Asian Americans who are understandably feeling hurt and afraid right now and wondering whether anyone else in America cares, that Congress sees you.
Advocates say they welcome the response from leaders around the country, but also say more needs to be done.
Now is not that time to be silent. Now is really the time to raise more awareness of what's going on and to demand that things change.
Camila Bernal, KPBS News.
For the very first time, the House has passed legislation that would allow Dreamers a pathway to citizenship. The vote gives Democrats a win in the year's first vote on immigration, but it could be an uphill climb in the Senate because Republicans are demanding bills include tougher border security. The bill offers legal status to around 2 million Dreamers who were brought to the U.S. illegally as children and to others. Passage seems imminent on a second bill offering legal status to 1 million immigrant farm workers. California Attorney General Javier Becerra has a new job. Today, the Senate confirmed Becerra as President Biden's health secretary. The son of Mexican immigrants, he is the first Latino to have the Health and Human Services Department. Becerra will play a key role in the administration's coronavirus response and its plans to lower drug costs and expand insurance coverage. Governor Gavin Newsom has not yet named a replacement for Attorney General. The CDC released more extensive guidance when it comes to coronavirus testing at schools and workplaces, as well as healthcare providers. Officials are calling it a critical part of the approach to stop the spread of COVID-19. Mandy Gaither has a look at the updated recommendations.
In the war on COVID-19, it's a weapon to help get closer to the end of the pandemic.
Reliable and widely available testing is a crucial part of our efforts to stop the spread of COVID-19.
The CDC says anyone with signs or symptoms of COVID-19 should continue to get swabbed during testing. But the agency also says rapid tests at different points in time, also known as serial screening, can help catch asymptomatic infections, allowing for quick identification and isolation of an infected person, especially important when there's a large number of coronavirus cases in a community or a high risk of COVID-19 spreading.
To end this pandemic, everyone must have equal access to affordable and timely testing with fast turnaround time for results to identify infections and reduce community spread.
The guidance is intended for use by healthcare providers and public health officials and those doing testing in places like colleges and universities, workplaces, homeless shelters, and detention facilities. The CDC also says getting a coronavirus vaccine will not affect the results of a COVID-19 viral test. For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
An enduring image from the early days of the pandemic were San Diego's open freeways and the empty trolleys. Traffic and transit ridership are recovering, but will they ever come back all the way? As part of our series Pandemic Life 1 Year On, KPBS Metro reporter Andrew Bowen considers COVID-19's lasting impact on transportation.
So this is our living room / dining room / kitchen.
Like millions of Americans, Andrew Picard has been working from home for the past year.
Most mornings I start my day on the sofa with coffee, a blanket, and my cat, and watching the news.
Picard works for the nonprofit San Diego Workforce Partnership. He misses seeing his colleagues in person, but likes the flexibility remote working offers. He gets to spend more time with his cat, Winston. He saved a boatload on gas and car insurance, and he saved time. Pre-pandemic, his 10-mile commute would take up to an hour one way. Now?
My commute is all of 20 feet. It takes me, 2 minutes to get from my bedroom to the living room or wherever I'll be parked for the day.
Even as more people get vaccinated and return to some version of their pre-pandemic work lives, Picard says his job will likely stay remote at least part of the week.
People are really keen to have flexibility, and I think what the pandemic has proven is in many industries, you can be as productive or more productive in a remote environment.
It's a very different story for Roddy Jerome.
Tomorrow. Yeah, and if you have any problems, no problem, go to her, okay? All right. Thank you. Thank you. Any problems, give me a call.
Jerome provides in-home support services for the elderly and disabled, work that can't be done remotely. His commute from work in Santee to back home in City Heights starts on a bike, followed by a trolley, then a bus. It takes an hour and a half or more each way. Jerome likes moving around. He doesn't want to work from home. He just wishes his commute were faster.
A more direct service, a more direct way of getting here, instead of having a transfer or to go from bus to trolley, that would make it a lot easier.
The stark difference between Picard and Jerome's pandemic commutes represents a greater truth. The benefits of remote working have gone mostly to jobs that are higher paid and more likely to be held by white people. The jobs where remote working was never an option tend to pay lower wages and are more likely to be held by people of color.
And that disparity made us actually think harder about social equity, social justice, about getting rid of the sins of the past when it comes to transportation.
Hassan Ikrada is the executive director of SANDAG, the county's transportation planning agency. We meet at the site of a future light rail station due to open late this year.
This is just a teaser of what is going to come for this region.
The sins of the past, Ikrada says, include bulldozing communities of color to build freeways. SANDAG is currently updating its long-term transportation plan with a mandate to slash greenhouse gas emissions. Ikrada says the pandemic has made clear the new plan should put the needs of disadvantaged communities first.
So what does that mean? It means that if you put a group project and one project is building an interchange for a freeway and the other one is building a bikeway, even so the interchange for the freeway might have the money and might seem logical, if the social index said you should do the bikeway, we'll do the bikeway. That's going to upset some people, but that is how you get rid of the sins of the past.
But is SANDAG accounting for the pandemic's potential to fundamentally change our daily commutes? Bus and trolley trips are down by about 60% since February 2020. And although car traffic has recovered faster, rush hour still isn't what it used to be. Ikrada says it would be foolish to base a generation of transportation planning on a one-time event, no matter how dramatic it might be in the short term.
The pandemic will be over. We cannot, as a society, move forward like this. Kids cannot continue to be at home. Therefore, it's short-sighted to say, scrap everything, let's start over again, because we don't know what the other side of the pandemic look like, but we can anticipate that's going to be back to normal.
SANDAG predicts remote working will curb greenhouse gas emissions somewhat, just not enough given the scale of the climate crisis. When Roddy Jerome looks beyond the pandemic, he still sees better public transit as key to his livelihood and a healthier planet.
If we're trying to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions, which is important to our climate action plan, they have to make it better. You have to make people want to get out of their cars, and if they can't do that, it won't happen.
Andrew Bowen, KPBS News.
And tomorrow we continue our series, Pandemic Life 1 Year On, with a story about the impact virtual learning has had on students across San Diego County. Efforts to improve the environment around the Salton Sea were widely expected to begin at Red Hill Bay in 2015. But that groundbreaking project remains undone. As KPBS environment reporter Eric Anderson explains, that's pulled air quality officials into a fight with local officials.
The roughly 400 acres of Red Hill Bay on the eastern edge of the Salton Sea used to be underwater. A state-funded project would return water to the flat playa, trapping dangerous dust under the water and providing habitat. It's all in a bid to protect air quality. But the lake bed remains bone dry.
5 years later, after many of these red ribbon cuttings and unveilings had happened, there's been little action on the ground at Red Hill Bay.
Imperial Irrigation District Director J.B. Hamby says the 2-year project never got finished, and the dispute has landed in front of the Imperial County Air Pollution Control District.
It's a pretty standard ticket that the Air Pollution Control District gives pretty often.
Air quality regulator Katie Burnsworth says the exposed lake bed has been a source of particle pollution for years. Local clean air officials hope a citation will push the IID to finish the project.
We've had to go this strong enforcement route because nothing's getting done at the Salton Sea.
The region has well-documented issues with air quality and asthma. Imperial County fails to meet federal clean air standards for particulate pollution. When the wind kicks up, the dry lake bed becomes a man-made source of small particles known as PM10.
The scariest thing about the playa is we really don't know what's in it. You know, the things that we do know about the playa is that it is PM10, but the scary part is the unknown.
Everyone worries there's toxic industrial pollution that washed into the lake and mixed in with those sediments. The Imperial Irrigation District is responsible for the land because they own it. IID's J.B. Hamby says the hearing could have been avoided.
We need to get together, get on the same page, and finish the project, not continue to fight about this.
The IID worries about potential rich underground resources. Cal Energy has a contract to explore geothermal energy and mine lithium at Red Hill Bay. The district worries a restoration project would complicate access to the area.
They're saying, oh no, we don't want to do these projects now.
Luis Olmedo is a community advocate who's fighting for clean air in the region.
Now we want to see what kinds of industry we can bring into these exposed areas. Time's out. Time's up. There is no time for that.
Olmedo says the federal government is ready to step in and take over the project, but they need some security about the land's future. The U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service has the funding to finish the restoration project, but federal officials won't invest the cash until they can secure a long-term lease from the IID. Olmedo says the public agency is resisting.
But the federal government and the state government has stepped up. They said, we'll fund this. You know, we'll pay for this. We'll maintain it. We'll do operation and maintenance into perpetuity.
Olmedo says for once, it is local officials, the Imperial Irrigation District, holding up progress on a Salton Sea project. He says the Imperial Valley cannot afford to wait. The Imperial Irrigation District's J.B. Hamby says it's not that simple.
There are complications with the lithium and the geothermal releases with and mineral rights with Cal Energy. There's Fish and Wildlife with certain leases they have or don't have, and the elevation of the Alamo and water quality and a whole host of other things.
But air quality regulator Katie Burnsworth says if there isn't progress soon, there could be significant fines coming.
And obviously this abatement order, it's used as a tool to keep everybody on task and in a timeline, because what's missing at the Salton Sea is a referee and a timer.
Fines could lead to litigation, and that could hold up the progress even longer. Burnsworth says regulators would rather see the kind of progress the state is making on a nearby 4,000-acre project that'll cover exposed lake bed on the southern edge of the Salton Sea. Eric Anderson, KPBS News.
We have a dry pattern the next couple of days. That's the good news, but there is going to be a front missing us to the north, where there will be some moisture, snow for the Sierra Nevadas. It does turn a bit cooler and breezy this weekend as we get the impacts behind the cold front, but not much of the moisture along the front. So for tonight, no surprise here, just a few passing clouds, mostly towards the coast is where we'll find a lot of that activity. Temperatures dropping to the lower 40s in some spots. Escondido 42 for your low, 45 in Mount Laguna. As we work our way in through Friday, again, cold front coming through. This cold front will pass through heading into Saturday for us, but we don't get the moisture along it. That'll be confined to the mountains, mostly the Sierra Nevadas, some mountains of Southern California, but really the story is much farther towards the north. And then we get the cool air behind it. That's the change that we'll see from the front. So for tomorrow, temperatures still fairly mild, 67 in San Diego. Meanwhile, as you look around Borrego Springs, back to the mid-80s for your afternoon high temperatures. Notice there will be some clouds out there to start off the morning right offshore, but I do think we get a good amount of sunshine. Then that front, you can start to see it nearing here into the evening hours. That's why we'll pick up a few extra clouds early on through the evening and continue overnight. It is going to be a cooler day as we start off the weekend and a little bit breezy as some of that cool air works its way on in. The coast, mid-60s for your high Saturday and Sunday. It's only a few degrees cooler, but it will be a little bit noteworthy here. Also, some periods of clouds as we work our way through the weekend. As I mentioned, a little breezy, so be aware that there is that chance for some gusty winds, but temperatures, again, just trending a bit cooler with that onshore flow. Upper 60s, even mid-60s for afternoon highs by Sunday. The mountains, you'll actually fall to the upper 30s for Sunday. That's coming down from the mid-50s for tomorrow. And once we get into the deserts here, we're talking about mid-80s first off, and then we go back to the mid-70s for portions of Sunday. For KPBS News, I'm meteorologist Melissa Constanzer.
Tomorrow, SDSU kicks off their run at the championship for this year's NCAA March Madness tournament. KPBS reporter Jacob Ayer says after last year's tournament got canceled, the Aztecs are back and riding a hot streak.
The SDSU Aztecs are the number 6 seed in the Midwest region, playing against 11th-ranked Syracuse in their first game of the March Madness tournament on Friday, March 19th at 6:40 p.m. The 2021 tournament will take place in and around Indianapolis, with SDSU's first game at Butler's Hinkle Fieldhouse. Head coach Brian Dutcher says this year means a lot for his Aztecs team, who were highly touted as a potential 1 seed for the tournament in 2020, but never got to play due to COVID-19.
We feel awful for that team that didn't go last year, but the guys that returned from last year's team, we take great pleasure that we could fight our way back into the field again this year.
The last time the Aztecs were part of the 68-team tournament was back in 2018. Today, fans like SDSU student Sean Ruderman are hopeful as the Aztecs head into the tournament as one of the hottest teams in the nation, winning their last 14 games.
I'm sure it's been, a struggle on them all year to, have to worry about COVID and be quarantined, and right now kind of I saw they were in their rooms for a long time. So it's just awesome to, it gives the students and, all the alumni something to root for.
San Diego State has met Syracuse twice in program history with losses in both games. But Dutcher says they are ready for the challenge of Syracuse's famed zone defense.
Even though it's a zone, it's not the same zone all the time. So we've prepared a couple different ways to attack it. I think we have some good ideas. But with that being said, once you step on the floor, that's a whole nother story.
If they advance to the second round, their game would be sometime on Sunday, March 21st. Jacob Ayer, KPBS News.
It looks like the Coachella Valley Music and Arts Festival is being postponed again. While there are no dates officially posted on the festival's website, it's reportedly moving from October to April of next year, and that would mark the 4th delay for the event that typically draws 100,000 people. The Country Music Festival Stagecoach, which takes place the weekend after Coachella finishes up, will likely be delayed as well. As we arrive at the 1-year anniversary of the pandemic, among those who've struggled the most are owners of small businesses. Today, Tommy Walker talks about his wrenching decision to close the Paradise Hills coffee shop Project Rio Collective and his plans for the future.
Project Rio Collective started in 2017. The idea came up of creating a space that neighbors could get together and hang out and get to know each other. We went into 2020 with the same goals. How can we do a better job as far as the community goes? What kind of opportunities can we take advantage of? And then that's when the whole social distancing hit, and with the unknown, and everybody just had to kind of take a step back and look at their inner circles and make decisions that was best for them and their families. And so the team decided to close the doors of Project Rio Collective around the end of March, beginning of April. But that was a tough one. That was really tough, because we really tried different ways. Like, how can we make this work? How can we make it happen? The neighborhood was definitely, I don't want to use the term upset, but they definitely wanted to do whatever it took to keep the place open. So my wife and I are, we've been entrepreneurs, so there is going to be another community coffee space that in the Paradise Hills neighborhood. The new coffee shop is called The Mental Bar, going through that process has been quite the journey. You know, we're in an underserved community, and it's not like the buildings in our community are up to code and have all the upgrades that, you know, you see in other communities and other neighborhoods. So dealing with the financials to, you know, get the building up to code and to have a safe location that the community can really enjoy. Living in a neighborhood, working in a neighborhood, and making it a neighborhood establishment, and controlling the narrative of our neighborhood. You know, revitalization starts from within. You know, from the inside out, it's always a better move than watching somebody from the outside come in.
And that story was produced by KPBS investigative reporter Claire Tregesser and video journalist Nick McVicker. Kitten season is almost here, and the San Diego Humane Society is asking for help to get ready. It's holding a virtual kitten shower to collect the supplies needed to care for thousands of kittens around the clock. The Humane Society is asking for donations, and that includes formula, bottles, heating pads, scales, and blankets. And you can find the registries online at sdhumane.org/kitten shower. And you can find tonight's stories on our website, kpbs.org. Thanks for joining us. I'm Maya Trabulsi. Have a great evening.
Major funding for KPBS Evening Edition has been made possible in part by Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, proud to support the mission of KPBS and privileged to serve San Diego clients. Anderson Plumbing, Heating and Air, helping homeowners maintain drain, heating, and cooling systems since 1978. And by the Conrad Prebys Foundation, Darlene Marco Shiley, and by the following. And by viewers like you. Thank you.